coffee stay black, just like me. Don't need no sugar, don't need no cream.
Here, welcome back to the Coffee Black Podcast. We're live at the biggest coffee conference in the country. I'm here with two people I greatly admire. We got the OG Martine from Mayorga Coffee. Y'all heard us talk about Martine. You've seen him on the pod before. And we're here with Sahra Nguyen from Nguyen Coffee Co. Super inspirational, doing amazing things, shaking the industry up. We're all real tired and probably over caffeinated. So it's not gonna be a long podcast today, but I wanted to just have this conversation around what does it mean to honor your root. And I think you both do this in really amazing and unique ways. And I'd love to hop in. I want to start with Martine. Just to talk about, again, we've had this conversation a million times, but I think it's interesting to be having it now, especially with all of the doom and gloom, quote unquote, that's happening in the industry. If you don't know, there's a lot of projections about how hard it's going to be for coffee business for the next 4 years. But it doesn't seem like it's hard for you right now. And I think that there's a lot that you've done in the last 10 years, 20 years, 25 years to show and to create a different narrative for you and the community and what you're doing. So for you right now, what does it mean to honor your root? And why do you think that has given you an advantage, you know what I'm saying, over where most people are feeling right now in coffee?
Well, first of all, I think it's funny that people are kind of whining that it's going to be tough for the next 4 years.
Yeah.
It's been tough for about 200 years for other people.
Sheesh, talk that talk.
I think that's kind of the basis of why I got into this.
Yeah.
I got into this in the 90s, mid-90s. I mean, you guys are probably not born.
I was born in 1990. Yeah, there we go.
Talk about, things were so far behind then. And it just felt natural to me, right? It's like I grew up in these countries. It's what I knew, it's what I loved. I loved the food. And then I started sensing when I came to the U.S., having to assimilate. My dad being on me to speak perfect English. Come off as Latino. Friends coming to the house and being like, oh, your house stinks because my mom was making some delicious food that I thought was delicious. So I went into this almost shame, hide who I was period.
Yeah.
I was a teenager. To then in my 20s, actually not even 20s, late teens, realizing, no, I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of what I have in my heritage. But more importantly, it's being completely obliterated in things like coffee. For me, it was more, let's stop being shameful about who we are in coffee. And I got to get out there and be proud of it and put that pride in the forefront. And frankly, I really believed naively that it would be this whole, this moment of the market being
kumbaya.
Great, Latino.
Yeah.
Oh,
Jeez.
It was
And this is the 90s, right? Wow.
And it's not much different today, if we're gonna be honest.
No, I'm just thinking about the 90s was such a weird time. For Black America, you had shows like Martin and Living Single and The Fresh Prince, and there was almost a cultural renaissance. But behind the scenes, there were so many things that were happening as far as police brutality, the crime bill being passed, and it was a weird time in culture because it was almost like people were kind of pro other cultures as long as you stayed over there and were entertaining. But when it came to actual equity and issues of justice, people weren't really willing to engage in certain ways. So I'm just thinking about that,
I think Latinos, I think our moment came through music.
Yeah.
Look at the charts now, and you look at
reggaeton.
Yeah, we've become more into the mainstream.
Yeah.
And to food, obviously. I think food, all our cultures have been now appropriated, and now it's cool to like these foods that 10 years ago were kind of funky to people. But look, ultimately for me, as an individual, everybody's you have to find who you truly are.
Yeah.
Put yourself into that place to the world. Right?
Wow.
So for me, if I was going to get into coffee, this was going to be me being the true me, representing my culture, my people, in every sense of it. And not everybody loves it, and enough people do.
Yeah.
And we're doing okay.
Yeah. Okay, right. Just okay. Okay, yeah.
So look, at the end of the day, too, it's about having courage. You have to have courage.
Yeah.
Change things. We need to change things. One of my favorite quotes is Bucky Fuller, who was a scientist, and said, you never change the existing model by fighting it.
Yep.
You change it by creating a new one.
Oh.
That's a bar.
So
You spitting right now.
we're creating a new model.
Yeah.
Pretty freaking simple.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of people would lose a lot of money if it takes place.
Yes.
But it's human, and it's producer, communities, and just people. So
Actual sustainability.
yeah,
Yeah, not just like a label.
no sticker needed.
Yeah.
Straight human interaction.
But I think the thing that comes to mind when you talk about that is courage. Is another word for courage to me is pride, right? And like on the one that we went, people don't know Martine like was the first person to teach my wife how to roast coffee. So he like flew us out to Baltimore, and like me and my team got to learn to roast coffee with them, and we went inside of y'all's warehouse, and it was so dope to me. And honestly, if I'm being frank, as a Black American, it was almost like a bit shameful in some ways because I saw how open you all were about your pride and being Latino. And like on the wall, like our mission is literally like addressing systemic poverty through like in your community, through this industry that we have. And I was just like, there's Latin pride on the bags.
Music,
and,
blasting.
Bro, and like the staff, all of that. But the crazy part is like when you do that as a Black person, you're almost like taught to be ashamed of that. To feel like you need to put I can't just talk about being Black. I have to put like, but we're not really like upset. But it's like you were just so open about like, I'm Latin American, I'm proud. Your staff was there, and you're flying a Black company out to teach them how to roast coffee, on the love. So obviously it's not like there was no anti-anybody in that, but you were just so open about who you were. And I was like, I have to decolonize the way I think about like what it means to be proud of our origin, what it means to honor our root, because what colonial powers have told us is that when you do that, that's an act of violence, to simply be courageous.
The biggest word I use with my team and my family is be unapologetic.
Yes.
You don't owe anybody any apology for who you are.
Yeah.
They should be thankful to you that you're putting yourself, your true self, in front of them.
Yeah.
And that's all we do.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the industry needs, and I think that's what the world needs, right? And like if everybody brings the best of themselves,
it's like single origin coffee. If each of us brings the best out of our own origin, then the world's palate is richer for that. But like, again, there's this kind of like subliminal messaging, and you doing that, bro, was just so amazing. Like it was so, and honestly, it inspires so much of what we do, you building and all that, supply chain obviously was like, man, can we create something like this for Black people? Because we haven't had it. And I think it's seeing this happen in so many communities. Obviously you've pioneered in the Latin American industry and the industry in general. It's inspired us, and like seeing what you're doing as well, Sahra, like such an innovative process. Like you guys' marketing, your storytelling, your sourcing is like so disruptive, and you guys, there's so much joy in your brand. You know what I'm saying? Would you mind speaking to that? What does it mean to honor your root? And how has that impacted the way that you tell your story and even the types of products that you release to the market?
Yeah, for sure. Like for us, I had no background in coffee. Like I had like no intention to get into coffee. I felt compelled and called to start my company because I saw such a deep injustice happening in my community and in coffee in general. So like when I had learned that Vietnam is the second largest producer of coffee in the world and also the number one producer of Robusta in the world, but yet like literally was rendered invisible in the coffee conversation and like barred from like access to like premium specialty coffee production, I was like, this is just messed up, right? And so for me, it was like layers of like, okay, so we have this entire segment, one, Vietnam, number two, Robusta as a species, as a community, being rendered invisible, but then not given the opportunity to like elevate.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, we're seeing this entire segment of like values of like care, investment, innovation, transparency, stability. But this like values application was very inconsistent. People were literally saying like, certain communities are deserving of these values, aka if you grow Arabica, and if you don't grow Arabica, you're not deserving of these values. So then what I was seeing with Vietnam was essentially Vietnam as an origin, as a coffee industry, but then also Robusta grown communities worldwide in all countries were pretty much trapped to economic exploitation. The industry was saying, if you grow Robusta, then you're pretty much only good for like the commodity market, right? Which means you can't elevate your coffee, your production, your pricing, or your livelihoods. And so for me, I felt like that was just like so hypocritical. It was wrong, right?
Yeah.
And because my family's from Vietnam, I was like, well, I'll start with my culture, my roots. And because Vietnam is also a major producer of Robusta, I was like, if we could just like focus on the species, it would actually help elevate communities worldwide.
Yeah.
So it really started like honoring like my roots. It was about just like helping to bring visibility to this issue so that we can like connect with the communities behind the bean because this industry was so deeply invisibilized in this industry.
Yeah.
And so And that was kind of that was really what called me, because honestly this industry is so difficult, as you probably know, Mari. I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, it's so difficult. I was like, this is wrong, right? And like, I just want to expand on what you said earlier, Mari, about like having the courage to challenge systems as they are. And like, that's definitely part of it, because like when I first started like in 2016 and then like really launched 2018, we were really entering and challenging this dominant narrative of like Arabica is superior, Robusta is inferior, like Vietnam is cheap, et cetera, et cetera. So we have to have the courage to challenge dominant narrative ideas, especially when they're wrong, right? Yeah. So courage is one thing, but then the other thing too that I feel so strong about for myself, but everyone in the industry, and I feel like we were talking about this, I know we did a lot, like around pricing, is courage, but also like we have to do in order to change the system, in order to really advocate and fight for equity, we have to be willing to do things that are inconvenient, right? In the name of business, right? Yeah. So for example, I was ordering my recent greens, and my price of the greens year-over-year rate was increased by 44%. Sheesh. And I was like, oh, I'm P&L, right? But I was like, oh, but this is what we want, because we've been working so hard to be like, you guys gotta pick 100% red ripe cherries, right? Hand picks. You guys gotta do all the sorting, right? Yeah. And then also like, you guys, we gotta transition from natural processing to full wash, because I want more consistency. And after that, they don't have machines to like sort materials, so they have to hand pick materials. So all this later on increased the price of Robusta, and I'm like, this is ultimately what we want, and we have to do we have to, even if it's inconvenient, we have to be able to do that. And then on top of that, the domestic price of Robusta on the commercial coffee C market increased 148% year over year. Oh, wow. Domestically, right? Wow. And so if like the price of the C market increased 140%, then of course premium specialty will also increase. Yeah. And I'm like, I got to figure out the P&L. I'm like, this is what we want. Right. This is actually what we want. We need C market to rise so that everyone else can rise. Because what? We don't want to help producers who grow commercial coffee. Yeah. Just because, right? And so it's about how do we really apply these values of care to everyone in the industry, not just specialty, right? But this is where, and I had certain people who like literally, even people here were like, oh, is it your fault Robusta's up? Right? They were like,
you've been doing a lot of marketing. You know what I'm saying?
Like, oh, we gotta get it down. I'm like, oh, but
wow,
why?
That's weird.
But why?
Wow.
Something very clear. The three of us started our businesses. None of us cared about coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We cared about our people. Yeah. Our heritage. Not everybody here does.
Yeah.
You know? And that's the why.
Yeah.
Because we talked about this. I went the C market could never drop below 225. Because what does that do? Nobody has an excuse to underpay. Nobody can underpay.
Yeah. Exactly.
But it's going to hurt a lot of P&Ls. But I think it's just the humanity is lost when it gets industrialized, when it gets commercialized. And I think people like us are necessary.
But I feel like increase the P&L temporarily, because if we really want to create systemic change, then as this is happening in the C market, right? And then on the origin side, and then producing, roasting, importing side, we need to shift culture around the world around how we consume coffee, right? If we can pay $18 for a glass of wine, why are we not comfortable paying more for a latte? Yeah. So
what do wine producers look like again?
I think it's interesting too, because when I started the anti-gentrification coffee club and Cxffeeblack, they were like, a lot of people were like, you can't put a coffee shop in the hood, right? And then that coffee shop just won more notable roaster in the world, right? Which is a couple months ago, which is crazy. I appreciate you, probably. Yeah, my wife did all the hard work, you know what I'm saying? But it's really fascinating to me, because they were like, oh, your community doesn't have the money. Not even just the general specialty coffee community doesn't have the money to pay what people deserve. But listen, in my community, like the Black African-American community can't afford to pay. But I was like, everybody in my neighborhood got Jordans though. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have money to spend. We just don't see a reason to spend it on that. Yes, right? Yes. And so when we started marketing coffee, because I'm a hip hop artist first, like I marketed coffee as merch. And so the price was like the price of the rest of my merch. You know what I'm saying? The coffee was $25, the hoodie was $40. Like it was just there with the rest of my merch. And so when my community was buying the coffee, they weren't going to a store and looking at, well, what is Folgers going for? They were just like, okay, this is a dope experience. I believe in what this brother's doing. I'll buy a hoodie, I'll buy a bag of Gucci Mane, I'm gonna buy a hat, whatever. Like it was in that context. And so like as our community has grown, it's actually interesting. I heard like the African American coffee consuming community is like the fastest growing demographic right now in the coffee industry. And that's fascinating because when I started, we were the lowest coffee consuming community. So people didn't see the potential in our community. And if you don't have the imagination, like the liberatory sociological imagination to see potential for what you think needs to be, I think you'll always be trapped into this kind of like, honestly, false story that you'll tell people. You go, hey, we need to pay more, we need to do more for these farmers, but when it's time to actually pay up, you won't be willing to because you don't have the financial imagination to see how to structure a business where that makes sense. And I think that that's something that oftentimes is because people don't see the primary imperative as care and seeing flourishing for these communities, and then you build backwards a financial model that makes sense. They start off with like, well, I want to keep making the money the way that the industry is and the way that we've been making money for the last 400 years, which is a very colonial, anti-black, anti-indigenous model built off of extracting labor from black and brown bodies. But at the same time, I do want to be seen as a nice person, so let me pick this language and these labels and these certifications on top of what I'm doing, so you think I'm a nice person while I keep making the same money that my great-granddaddy used to make. And I'm like, that you just can't do both of those things at the same time, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's backwards. Yeah.
I think I saw the stat, I don't know the stat exactly, but like, it was some wild stat, like literally like the price of coffee has it increased over the last like 30 years.
I heard it went down, didn't it?
It's gone down.
Yeah.
If you factor inflation, I mean, the green market should be like $8.
They were saying like farmers used to make like 50% of like the total cost of what the product was once you roasted and presented to a customer. Now it's, what is the percentage? Like, I don't know, 2%, 5%?
Part of the problem is also the volume's grown, right? There's a lot more, you know, Brazil, Vietnam. But I think ultimately, I don't know, man. I think we're living and still operating in industries that are established from 200 years.
Yeah, bro.
There's still colonization mentality.
Yeah.
In our countries, there's still. I mean, it's. I think one of the things that leads to, you know, you talk about representation.
Hey, we here. You know what I'm saying? Welcome to SCA.
And you know, one of the things that I feel great about, and you guys I'm sure do too, is we have something that nobody here can fabricate or market, which is identity.
Yeah.
Do you know how many people in this industry are just riding the wave of the next identity they can attach to feel different but all be the same?
Yeah.
We have something substantially sustainable in the sense that it's identity. It's our people, it's our heritage, it's our culture, and it's very real. And I think we also have a responsibility, a major responsibility.
Yeah.
You know, I say some things that upset people.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't care, because if I don't say it, who else is going to say it?
Right.
And I'm thanked behind the scenes by all the people who can't say it.
Yep.
And I'm despised by all the people who have taken advantage of the people that
Right, because it's not convenient for them to hear what you say. It's not convenient for them to maybe apply the changes or like be challenged in how you're challenging them. Like, that's what it's like. It's part courage, but it's also like being willing to do what is inconvenient for you, for your business, because you know it's for the betterment of the entire collective.
Yeah.
You know? And there just aren't enough businesses who are willing to do that because they're just so focused on
maximizing profit.
Yeah.
We have very different models, the three of us.
Yeah.
My model is I want to be massive.
Yeah.
I kind of agree on everything because the problems have been created through volume. Now I realize that for me to grow scale, I need to give something up. If I net 9% at the end of the year, I'm happy.
Yeah.
So we're giving up a lot, right? We're giving up what our competitors would think we're crazy. I mean, I've told you, I've had 6 offers to buy the company in 7 years.
Yeah.
The main reason I don't do it is the first thing any buyer's going to do is say, 9%, that's a terrible margin.
Yeah.
Let's get this up to 20, 25%. What happens? The producers less, pay employees less, cut benefits, raise prices, become like a
They'll restructure the P&L.
Wow.
Yep.
And I want to restructure the industry.
Right.
That's so bad. That's so bad. But that's why I rock with you, bro, because you're so hip hop. Like, when I came, I didn't know how people talk in coffee, but you talk like rappers talk, bro. You know what I'm saying? No, but I rock with it so much. And you think about hip hop comes from Black and Latin American communities in New York. You know what I'm saying? It's just like an honesty that like makes sense, and I resonate with it, and that's respected in my community. You know what I'm saying? Like, you tell the truth, you keeping it real. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's weird to be in this place where it's kind of like frowned upon in a lot of ways. Like, even the way we move on the floor, like, we playing music, we're enjoying ourselves. We're happy to be here. We're happy to be with our community. I got like 10 people from Memphis with me. You know what I'm saying? And like, it's just when you see the looks, It's hilarious, bro. You know what I'm saying? But I try not to focus on that because there's so many more people who are excited and who feel empowered and who feel seen. And like, that's the motivation to me. And I think that honestly, when it comes down to honoring your root, the reality is if you don't water the root, it won't be no fruit to speak of in 20 or 30 years. And so even though you don't want to get this work, you need to get this work because this is what's going to keep this thing available for you. Because without black and brown people, without black and indigenous and Asian people and Middle Eastern people, there's no coffee to speak of. So you might as well get used to seeing us and enjoy it. You know, because like this, we are actually the solutions that you have been looking for. It's going to come from our communities, not from outside of them, you know?
I think like when, I'm not saying that you have to be from the culture of origin to work in coffee, obviously
of course
not, but we need more people
but you need to honor that
from the culture of origin to work in this industry because it's like our perspective and our experiences lend a very different framework for how we want to transact the industry. Literally this conversation, how we want to build a P&L, how we want to structure our businesses, like the things that we prioritize, the things that we're not willing to compromise on. Like sometimes it just takes a person who comes from the culture of origin because we have that care. Because literally it's like our families who live there, you know?
I think a big point to that I always bring up is two very similar words that are very different. There's sympathy and there's empathy. If you don't know the plight of somebody firsthand, you can have sympathy. That's a very kind of distant engagement or lack thereof. When you empathize with somebody, you'll go to war for them.
Come on, bro. You'll suffer with them, right? And you'll see that as something where I don't choose to leave from the suffering until you can leave too. And I think that that's something that's important because when I got into coffee, you know, we were talking, you were explaining the system for so many communities in Latin America, and I started hearing you and I was like, wait, so let me guess. The person who's buying the coffee also owns the shops in town that rents them the fertilizer and the different tools. And I remember you like, how did you know that? And I'm like, because that's sharecropping. That's what my great-grandfather had to go through and escape in the South. And these colonial models, like to me, I feel like I'm getting the opportunity to fight for the things that my ancestors never received by partnering with farmers equitably. Because I see them as my cousins. I see those as my aunties and my uncles. You know what I'm saying? I see their faces.
Nature needs that, right?
Literally.
People that will share that empathy and bring it into the industry. The industry needs more sympathy and empathy to come up, and you want other people. Look, I'm 51. I don't know how much longer I'm going to want to be doing this. I want to see 100, 2,000 of me out there. I want to see 5,000 of you. Like, we need that, right? I think that's what's going to bring some more balance, and frankly, I think it'll bring better product to the market.
Come on, bro. It's going to bring more innovation to the market as well. I guess that's the last piece I want to end on because I know I said 15 minutes, we long. I know y'all busy, CEOs got things to do. But I did want to talk about how honoring your root actually leads to more innovation in the marketplace as well, especially from a branding conversation. And I think both of you have very interesting strategies when it comes to how you name your products, how you show your products to the market, the colors you choose, the fonts you choose. They're very like specialty coffee. You know what I'm saying? And how has honoring your roots led you to innovation and the types of products you bring to the market? And how has that led to new opportunities and new ways to bring financial opportunities back to the people who we're speaking about, our family at origin, the roots? Like this kind of innovation, I think, is essential in order to like find new ways to bring in revenue streams. So how has y'all roots led to innovation within your marketing?
Well, for starters, you know, when I was thinking about what to name the company, I was like, Tiger Coffee, because I'm here the Tiger, right? I'm like, Tiger Coffee, Tiger's a strong and bold Vietnamese coffee. Or Nguyen Coffee Supply. I was like, oh, but is America ready for Nguyen Coffee Supply? I really wasn't sure. But then I was like, Vietnamese folks have been rendered invisible in coffee. The way I could bring visibility here is by naming it Nguyen, right? So that was the first step.
That's a win-win.
It's a win-win. And then two, because Vietnam's specialized bean, its focus is Robusta. Vietnam is the #1 producer of Robusta today. Even though it's not the dominant bean in American coffee culture, we just focus on what was like the specialty of our culture at origin, Robusta, bold, nutty, strong. And by actually offering that in the US context, sure, we had to battle a lot of stigma in the beginning, but now our product is seen as like highly differentiated. It's so innovative. It's not redundant. This is so brand new. Wait, what? Double caffeine, double antioxidant, 60% less sugars? Like, this sounds great. I'm like, yeah, it's just expanding the experience. You know? And it's just like, and it's like silly when you think about like why has it taken this long for a Robusta to really be like you know, even like Robusta programming here. Like, why has it taken so long for Robusta programming to really happen at SCA at this level, right? Like, we couldn't even have a conversation about it. It was like, Robusta doesn't really belong here. But yeah, just by simply focusing on like what is there, and then it's like, now how do we make it a little bit better and incrementally better? It's gonna dramatically change the landscape. But yeah, now it's like we offer 100% Robusta beans roasted in Brooklyn. We offer 100% Robusta cold brew in a can, and everyone's like, "This is so different. I haven't tasted like this before." I'm like, "Yeah, because it's been barred." But I don't know. I feel like it's really simple.
But I think the innovation is that you actually, our shirt. We had a shirt that went crazy. It said, "Love Black people like you love Black coffee." The root of that to me is loving your roots and honoring your roots. You actually like appreciate and actually genuinely see value in where you're coming from and the things that are there. So naturally, the value that brings to the market is something you didn't have to ever question or have explained to you or broken down in the marketing analysis. You just felt it in your soul. You're like, this is good. Yeah, amen, right? And it was good. You know what I'm saying? As in like creation type beat. And like, so when it came to the market explained it back to you why it was valuable, but you already knew it. You know what I'm saying? I think there are a lot of communities and things happening at origin that are inherently valuable because that's what human beings do. We create value, but because we don't look like the human beings who have been determining what value looks like for so long, when we bring value to the market, sometimes people don't understand it, right? And it takes time for that to be seen. But the thing is, it will be seen and it will be understood. You can literally taste and see it. You know what I'm saying?
I love what you said about like who creates value, or really the perception of value.
Yes, the language around it.
Because when I'm in Vietnam, folks in Vietnam are like, "Oh, Starbucks is like so weak. Like it's so watery. Like how do you guys drink that coffee? It's so like diluted. Like we like our Robusta. You know, it's all context. It's all like social constructs of like what we perceive as value and how we apply value. And so, yeah, it's just like really wild when it's kind of like, let's just take a step back and just expand our view a little bit and just like appreciate things for what they are. Let people decide what they like and what they don't like, instead of try and tell them what is valuable and therefore what you should like.
That's dope. And the same thing is, I just smiled when she was talking about what to name the company, because they reminded me of conversations that we've had. But at some point, naming the company Mayorga Coffee was seen as a liability. Now it's an asset.
Mayorga, that was even worse. Nice.
Now it's an asset, though. Right?
It is, because it's authentic, and it's. I kind of took it as a burden to put upon myself, which is if I name the brand and the company my family name, there's some weight to that that I need to live to. But talking about innovation, for me, I think there's two levels of that. Level number one is the most important thing to innovate, in my opinion, is supply chain. But it's boring, right? It's not cool. You can't Instagram, renegotiating interest rates from a producer. But to me, that's the ultimate innovation that everybody should be thinking about. How do we make this lean, efficient, and also fair to the consumer, which we tend to forget about. We should be fair too. The industry forgets that.
Especially specialty.
Exactly. And then the other innovation of being an authentically Latino brand that puts the top products from not only our countries, but then great blends that represent the nuances of who we are. Right. If you look at each of my blends, it's a storyline of an immigrant who came to the U.S. as a refugee revolution and has certain lived experiences that define them as an adult now. Cafe Cubano, Muy Macho, they all have a story that's very distinctive to me and my roots and my history.
Come on.
So, and to your point, it's relevant. It's always been. The permission wasn't given yet.
Come on.
So we stopped asking. We just kind of did the market and took it.
That's so dope, bro.
So I think that's what's important. And look, for me, it's not about us being the only ones. Everybody's necessary in the supply chain.
Come on, bro.
Every culture, every walk of life, but we all need the presence in the marketplace. I mean, for years. I mean, dude, I'm not a very emotional guy, but when you did that documentary that you played,
Coffee Black to Africa in Boston,
Black Church in Boston, I went to talk. I couldn't talk. Why? Because I was sitting in a room that I never thought I'd sit in. After 20-some years in the industry, where I felt like an outsider, and seeing any minority, I'm like, hey, it's like you go up to them, like, it's like,
you okay? You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, you want some seasoning?
Why does up? I got my hot sauce
it's just in the pocket. You know what I'm saying?
Wait, no, I was doing the competition for the roasting finals.
Wow.
His first ever in 2018, he was the only person who felt.
Wow.
Now it's about 80%. In gender and everything, it's diverse. And I think that's where courage comes in. Like, we have to be out there. We have to stop asking, start taking.
Yeah.
And we have to prove to others that we have a place.
Yeah.
And everybody has a place.
Yeah.
So just because we want a place at the table doesn't mean we're trying to kick anybody out.
Yeah, man.
Just pull up, give us an extra chair. Pull up a chair
bro.
and let us have a seat.
And everybody's gonna eat, bruh.
Yeah.
Who don't love Vietnamese food? Who don't love Latin American food? Just let us cook, bro. You're gonna eat, and it's gonna be way better. I trust you. Just wait till you get these seasonings. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're gonna love it. So I think that's a great place to end. I think we're about to screen the next film about the Black Barista Exchange Program at Chance the Rapper's venue tomorrow, and we're bringing 9 African diasporan baristas from Ghana, Afro-Colombian, not Vietnamese. We're gonna get there though. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're gonna bring baristas from all over the world to America, to Memphis specifically, to be able to have this conversation. And the reason why I wanted you to be here is because I think your brands embody the possibility of honoring your roots, and how it's not just novel, it's not just important or powerful, but it also can be extremely profitable. And I think that this is important to see, because the predominant narrative at origin is we need to figure out a way to be more palatable to what people are already experiencing in order to generate profit. And while that may be true at times, I think there's a much bigger return on investment if you can innovate. And oftentimes the best way to innovate is to do what you know best, that no one else knows. And it's gonna be work, it's gonna be hard for us to understand you, but if you can bring that concept to market in a way that can be understood, like, you have such a wide open lane to dominate. And like, I'll end just by saying, like, our brand Gucci Mane, like, when we started that coffee, folks didn't understand what we was talking about. But they saw it in my community, was like, I don't even drink coffee, but that looked hard. Like the drip on the lettering, and like, now I can explain to you, oh, Gucci is a region in Ethiopia that we're sourcing coffee from. My wife and I were just made coffee elders there. Last year we were made of Bagadas and Adasenke. You don't know what that is. People, we got a documentary who was rapping on the soundtrack. But like, also that joint is just good. And I think that like the time to be able to create that experience allows you to get a corner on the market. And that allows you to generate profit in really unique and creative ways that other industries or brands necessarily can't, because like their space in the market is overcrowded. Why would you want to go that way anyway? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're gonna need a lot of money to be able to play that game, and I would much rather play the game that I know best. You know what I'm saying? So hope this is an encouragement to somebody watching it. Appreciate y'all. Thanks for checking out the podcast. Thanks for sure. We're gonna put the links to everybody's situations in the bio, you know what I mean? Appreciate you. Y'all keep that coffee black. We out.
Coffee stay black, just like me. Don't need no sugar, don't need no cream. Coffee stay black, just like me. Black like me, 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 black like you.